I guess ironically enough, there was not a lot of improv in the movie. Partly that was a function of time. Like it was a kind of low-budget indie film. If we got the scene in the can and everyone felt like we got a really good version of it, we weren't sticking around to shoot it another 3 times. But also, I think it's a credit to the fact that our core cast just nailed their performances so well. We weren't having to find things. I feel that we use improv a lot as writers to find stuff out and to try and improve on something that isn't working. And I guess they just got it to work straight out the gate.
Bryce is just such a terrific actor, and she really just holds the room, and she's such a professional as well. That's exactly what we needed for that character. She's a comedy improv teacher, she's really seasoned, she's the most experienced of them. So she brought that perfectly. Marlon, the character of Marlon, played by Orlando, is going to be an actor who's taking himself seriously but trying something new, which is frankly what Orlando, I think, was doing with this project. He was trying something new, showing that he could do comedy as well as anyone else, which I think he did. And then Nick, who's a friend of ours from the comedy scene in London, was the person who was the character has never done comedy before. So it was ironic for us to bring one of the best comedians of our generation to that role, and we knew that he would just know how to play that perfectly.
I feel we couldn't have asked for a better balance of performance, personalities and types of skills for those 3 characters. I think we got so lucky with that main 3 cast.
We wanted it to be a film that you would tell your cool friend's older brother about, but that's kind of in the context of us being 11.
Oh no! It was we wanted it to be a film that, like when we were sort of 11, someone's cool older brother would go, you know what you guys should watch tonight is Deep Cover.
Yeah, trust
that
me,
was the pointlessly elaborate role play we set ourselves. Yeah. I guess we just want people to have a brilliant time, just to laugh loads, to be transported by the story, to be plunged into an insane undercover mission. It's a real rollicking adventure, but hopefully, mainly, they just laugh loads.
The vibe on set was incredibly cordial, incredibly fun. I think a lot of people had, for a film that's about improv, I was surprised how much respect the actors had for the script we wrote. Yeah. And they often wanted to do it exactly as we asked, and would ask the director and then occasionally ask, is that what you were expecting? Which is very much not the spirit of improv. But then that probably is the fact that it's also an action film. It's not just a comedy, it's an action film as well, and it needs to go at a pace. And it was an absolute dream for us to be rubbing shoulders with those guys on set every night.
Our director Tom Kingsley and producer Colin Trevorrow set a lovely community atmosphere on set, and that extended to us as writers being encouraged to take part in rehearsals, to pitch in when it was appropriate, and it just felt like the best fun. We never wanted it to end. In fact, the very last scene in the whole movie was an improv take that our characters did of us in the surveillance van reacting to the main kind of finale of the film, and we just kept improvising because we just didn't want the cut to be called for the last time.
Yeah, we didn't want to end.
Can we please come back tomorrow? Maybe there's more. We didn't want it to end.
I still think we could do some more now. I think look, the producer's there.
Let's
do some
more.
A
little something tonight.
Nick's there.
Let's see.
We can do it, yeah. It's totally surreal. I'm finding myself looking back there and look at that. It says Tribeca Festival right there, and that carpet's red.
It's actually it's insane to something that we follow from afar as enormous fans and film enthusiasts. To suddenly be a part of it is truly mad, and I just hope the audience go for the movie.
So Hugh is he's at a bit of a crossroads in his life. He doesn't really have a big support network, probably doesn't have too many friends. He's in a quite lowly office job somewhere between IT support, I guess, and he's looking for, I think, a new thing in his life to kind of just get things going a little bit more. Stumbles into these improv classes, enjoys what he sees, but then little does he know that that's going to end up with him, going undercover, doing these low-level sting operations that quickly escalate and get out of control. So he's very quickly out of his depth because he's not, he doesn't even have a improv background or an acting background necessarily compared to, say, Kat and Marlon, who Bryce and Orlando play. So he I would say he probably goes on the most extreme journey of the 3 of them. I do comedy and I do live comedy, so there's always a degree of kind of you have to sometimes think on your feet, but often it's very scripted what I will do anyway, even if it appears to be quite spontaneous. And look, the script, these are brilliant writers there, Ben and Alex, but they wrote such a brilliant script. It was so tight. There wasn't really the need to necessarily for us to improvise as actors during the filming of it. And you know, Hugh's meant to be really bad at it as well. So even if I could do it very well, I'd have to be trying to make it look worse than I could possibly do it. You know, I felt like that was my sort of safe area a little bit in terms of the comedy in the show, especially because Hugh is such a sort of socially awkward guy, and I feel like, you know, I can do that, I can play that role. But the biggest challenge was when, you know, suddenly it gets quite action heavy, or there's the relationship aspects where, and you know, this is one of the first, well, it is the first sort of major role I've done in a feature film ever. So, you know, just kind of not being overwhelmed by that really was the biggest challenge, and making sure that the balance of the comedy was there with the action stuff when it needed to be, and so on. Just wonderful. I mean, they are just so generous, incredible actors. I mean, like proper movie stars. I've obviously watched them as I've kind of been, you know, growing up and working, and so, you know, to get to play with them in this film was just a joy. And they're so great. They're so great technically as well. They know everything that the camera's doing. I felt like I would sometimes sleepwalk my way through scenes, and you know, I felt safe in the comedy, but had less knowledge of what everything else was happening around me, and so they were just brilliant at kind of guiding me. I could lean into them a lot as well for support. So yeah, it was, we kind of really hit it off. Oh look, there's Bryce. We really hit it off right from the start. You know, we're all similar ages, we've all got kids, and so we really bonded really early on, and it was great because it just meant that dynamic in the film was authentic, because it was. Oh, it's really exciting. I mean, I've only ever been to New York. This is my third time, and I adore it here. And I've never been to Tribeca, and so we had the London premiere at South by Southwest last week. And one thing that struck me, because obviously it's an Amazon MGM release, but obviously it's going out on a streaming platform. So what we're really trying to encourage people is to try and get your friends together and watch it together, have like a pizza night or something like that, and watch it. Because what was great was being able to see it in the cinema, and like we'll see it tonight, because, you know, so rarely are comedies sort of made for and getting theatrical releases now. So, you know, laughter is quite infectious. It's nice to laugh with people, and so we really hope that people can enjoy this film together, and hopefully tonight will be fun because we'll be seeing it with a big bunch of people.
It is a high-stakes scenario. I play Kat. I play an improv comedian, but specifically someone who's a teacher, and she ends up needing to recruit 2 of her students to join her in going undercover. And she hopes to recruit her best students, and they end up getting agents, and so she ends up recruiting her worst students. So much of the story for Kat is just about survival, just making sure that these guys don't end up, you know, getting all of them killed. It's the improv was really less about trying to be funny, which improv comedians very rarely are trying to do. If you try to be funny, you're not going to be funny, right? But if you play the truth of the scenario, that can often be hilarious. And so for Kat, it was really about like, oh my God, this is getting absurd, this is getting insane. I need to make sure that everyone survives this. I only have a very tiny amount of experience with improv. When I was going to drama school and stuff, you would kind of study it, and a little bit in Chicago. And it was really helpful to at least see all the things that I know I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, wow, this is such an incredible art form that is very specific and takes a long time to master. And it's why I'm so glad that the writers of this are brilliant improv comedians, because it brought so much authenticity to the storytelling. Plus they were there, so they could throw out really funny things for us to say. We had a good time together. We're all at similar stages of life. They make fun of me for this, but I'm like, you know, we're all middle-aged. They're like, excuse me, I'm like 40s. I mean, do the math. But it's really kind of in a way a story about 3 people where things haven't worked out for them. Kind of all of them, they're different people in different walks of life, but they all feel like they've failed. And they come together and kind of become an unlikely team and friends ultimately at the end. And that's sort of what it was like for me, Orlando, and Nick. We've all got kids. We all like just really enjoyed each other's company and had a really great time making this together. Something that's very special for us is that when all of us signed on to this movie, it was an independent film. It was an independent British action comedy. And when you're making an independent movie, you never know whether or not it's actually going to see the light of day. You know, given the script and the folks involved in this, it was like, okay, this is a pretty good bet, but you never know. And and I feel very lucky that that Amazon bought it and they're distributing it and whatnot. But it's really festivals like this that make movies like Deep Cover possible, because there is a place to and a platform to show these stories, and so it's a huge honor to be here. I was raised in New York. I went to NYU, so getting to be here is very cool.
I got a call from Colin Trevorrow, and he said, look, I got this really funny script. I've developed it for years and years and years. I really think this is a role that you could score in. I'd love to work. And I was like, first of all, Colin's a great guy, great director, producer, but I was like, sounds interesting, read it, and it just was fast, quick-witted. The humor of Ben and Alex, the writers with Tom Kinsley, who've all worked together, and even Nick is a part of that troupe. They're like great comedic guys from the UK. So it's just fast, funny, action, and I think sometimes it's hard to get an action comedy to work. Like the action and the comedy can kind of pull against each other. Can't get that word out. That's a comedic. But we really we go at a clip, we go at a pace. It's just, I'd encourage people to watch it in a group because laughter's contagious. And we saw in London that people were rolling in the aisles. I'm really excited to be in Tribeca. I love this festival. It's great to get to premiere it here. And hopefully people, kind of enjoy it. June 12th on Amazon Prime. The beauty of this story is that there are all these three characters who really I think the camaraderie really screams off the page of the script, which, fortunately I'm working with the likes of Bryce Dallas Howard, who's an amazing, talented actress, and Nick Mohammed, who is he just has funny bones. I think that they're these guys who are basically lost in life, trying to find direction, and through this sort of mad adventure, they team up together and they kind of grow in confidence and find something that was missing. And I think, friends working together is a great way to feel good, right? And I think that screams through in the script and hopefully when you watch it at home.